Call to order the tonight's meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, January 17th, 2019. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Roth?
Here.
Mr. Simmons?
Present.
Ms. Cottenberg?
Here.
Mr. Carter?
Present.
Mr. Motti?
Here.
Mr. Kizilbosh?
Here.
Mr. Eugen?
Here.
Mr. Alvarez? Here. Thank you.
Mr. Reyes is excused from tonight's meeting, and Mr. Motti will be voting in his place. You have all had the opportunity to review the minutes of our last meeting, the October 18th, 2018 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections?
I didn't see any. I would move for their approval as submitted.
A second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Tonight we have a public hearing on making a recommendation to the City Council. The
Certainly. And then I put it away. This is a proposed ordinance to the City Council. This ordinance would be Ordinance 19-01, an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, amending Land Development Code, Article 22, Language and Definitions, amending Section 54-5-22.3C regarding adult personal service businesses, providing for severability, providing for repeal of laws in conflict, providing for codification, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could we have a presentation from staff?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. I've included lots of bits and pieces of information in your packet, so I want to try and connect them all on how we got to the ordinance that's presented before you. And I did include the ordinance, a copy of the minutes from the City Council meeting in November where a gentleman came before here. He was working with me. He was trying to find a location for an artist studio and a tattoo parlor. And one of the items I have in your packet is the conditional use criteria for adult entertainment establishments. And based on, I've also included the definition for that in our use section. And the interpretation of the adult entertainment establishments, the adult personal service businesses, is that is where we had classified tattoo parlors in the past, because they usually required a minimum age to get a tattoo without parental consent. Even though we don't have a specific definition in our code for tattoo establishment or tattoo artist, previous legal city attorney opinions, and we had included it as adult personal businesses, which meant then that a tattoo parlor had to follow all of the conditional use criteria that's listed in that section. And as you can see, was very onerous on the distances that it has to be from other, from a residential district, from churches, other adult entertainment establishments, from a bar or lounge. So it was, there are 7 criteria. There is currently a tattoo establishment on 512, close to the railroad tracks. They had to come, they are in the industrial zoning district. They did come before you to get that conditional use permit, but before they came before you, they had to get a variance because they were within 200 feet of Sandy's Bar and Grill. So he didn't meet that 200 foot. So he got the variance from City Council, came before you. So we do have one establishment. I think when the gentleman came before City Council, their immediately discussion is that the stereotype and the the attitude towards tattoo parlors and establishments, artists have changed over the years. This is the exact same code from 1985 that we used for the tattoo establishments, and it hasn't changed. So regarding that, they agreed that the city code was a little bit too restrictive on a lot of times the tattoo. This particular gentleman wanted to also open an art studio. And so they asked staff to look into how we can adjust the code to not make it so onerous for them to find a location. The gentleman, every time he called me and had a location, he was either next to a church, within the area of a church, the village shops, there was a bar in there. We just couldn't find him a location that even would meet a special exception because you still had to meet the conditional use criteria. Our first thought was, okay, we'll create a definition for tattoo establishments, and we'll go back to Article 5 and slip that into the zoning districts that we felt would be okay for a tattoo establishment, a tattoo parlor. That process, though, can be very costly to the city. There's display ads, because we are changing conditional and permitted uses in the zoning districts. There's, the state statute requires a certain amount of display ad advertising, 2 public hearings at city council, is a little bit more complicated of adding just those in there. So we thought that maybe if we looked into the definition section, and if we could make it clearer and more define it just in the definitions, and put it under one of the existing categories that we have, we wouldn't have to change the zoning district permitted or conditional uses. We would just be changing definitions and getting it established. We at first thought that we would possibly consider it a trade and skilled service. That was our initial thought. You need to have a trade. It is something that it's more artist related, have to have a skill. If you look, I've given you the chart of the permitted and conditional uses. Trade and skilled services was allowed as a permitted use in 4 different zoning districts. Pretty much everything except the commercial riverfront CWR along Indian River Drive, our riverfront area. We thought this may be a way to go. We continued on with our research to look in of how the state organized tattoo. How did they license the tattoo artists? What kind of state regulations did they have to follow? And to kind of fit that in with our overall picture. It turns out that tattoo artists are regulated by the Department of Health because there is some medical waste that you may have to get from your establishment after your tattoos to get rid of, and protocol on that. Which then got us thinking that we also then had to look at, and it popped into our heads and considered, when you go to a hair and nail salon, the same people and gentlemen, in case you know, you actually can get permanent makeup. Your eyeliner, the eyebrows, permanent lip color, that is the same license as tattoo artists. They have to hold that same license from the state, from the Department of Health, that a tattoo artist did. And it got us thinking, how can we regulate tattoo establishments when we don't have any regulations for the hair and salons that have that personnel working there and offering that service? It also got us looking into massage therapists. They are regulated by the state from the Department of Business and Professional Regulations. They hold a license from the state. A little bit different from a massage parlor that would be associated with adult entertainment. But if you hold this license from the state for massage parlor, again, we're not considering you adult entertainment, and you don't have to meet all these criteria. So then we had to consider, if we make it trade and skilled services, how many businesses would we then be creating, and they would become non-conforming if you offered those services, the same licenses that these other businesses, tattoo artists, had to hold. And so what we feel and what we're presenting to you for your discussion is that we've kind of not added a definition of adult personal services, but we're telling you what it's not. If you hold these licenses from the state, you're not an adult personal service, which means then you won't be considered adult entertainment. And we clarified with our definition that you would be considered retail establishment. So that way we're not creating, so all of our hair and salons, day spas that offer massages do not become non-conforming. That, however, does allow them in all of our zoning districts where retail is allowed. And of course, we've set it up in our zoning districts and permitted uses based on the size. You know, if you're under 10,000, you're allowed in all these square feet. But that was our logic on how to get these in here. But up for discussion is now these will be allowed in all zoning districts as a retail type of establishment. And all we had to do to get that in was just that one section of the code that we will add as an insert underneath adult entertainment to kind of clarify what adult personal services is. And we are removing then anything that requires a license from the Department of Health, which will be your tattoo artists and establishments, and your registered licensed massage therapists, people that have that license from the state. I don't know if you want to call them massage parlors, whatever, but it won't be adult entertainment. And that is what we're presenting to you for discussion for your recommendation to City Council.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if you had connected all those dots from the pieces of paper that we had given you in your packet. So I needed to explain how we got there.
Open this up for discussion, and let's start on this end tonight.
I understand it. I have no problems with it.
No comments, okay.
Where's this person going to, any physical address?
Well, no, because we're not changing the code for one particular business, and he has not come back with a particular business. He couldn't until we do, if the code
Okay.
is amended. But this will open up for any tattoo artist, and it also validates and now makes legal, I don't want to say legal, but it now gives where all of our nails and salons and people that hold those licenses, the places that they work, they're now conforming with what our code is instead of kind of out in a limbo of how to deal with those services. But
Okay.
no, in answer to your question, he did not
No,
have a specific
I don't
address
see
at
any
this time.
problem with it myself, to have any modification.
Do you have anything to add?
Just a question. The description as you're proposing it to change, that is what's on this handout you gave us in blue ink?
Yes,
Okay, that's what will be added in as a change on the description of those businesses to set them aside.
it's kind of a sub-definition of, it'll be right below the adult entertainment establishments, and it kind of clarifies the adult personal service business that's mentioned in the adult entertainment.
Okay, fine. That's perfectly understandable, and the state does it that way, so I think that's a good way to go. The only other question I have is, if I'm interpreting the three different matrices you gave us, everything that's highlighted in yellow is a change, whether it's permitted or conditional?
No, if it was a proposed change, I would have underlined, it would be in blue, underlined or striked out. I just wanted to bring it to your attention currently where the uses all are. On the first page, adult entertainment is only a conditional use in industrial, which hence is what the issue is. I highlighted where all the commercial retail areas are. As you can see,
Okay.
that's going to be in all of our commercial districts, including in the riverfront. And I also had highlighted, just for verification, to show where originally we had considered trade and skilled services, if you had wanted to consider that. It pretty much is permitted except for down in the riverfront. But
Okay.
that was just for information. It was just highlighted in yellow to bring it to your attention.
That makes perfect sense. My only question is the possibility of having it in the commercial water riverfront and the CR, the commercial riverfront, if it's really fitting for that area. I know that according to what the research we've done here, beauty parlors are permitted there.
Yes.
And I don't know how to delicately say this, it's just a little bit different, not a lot, but it's regulated by the state, but their business and perhaps some of the clientele might be a little bit different.
It
And
is.
I'm questioning that.
But that was our thought, that if we were going to regulate tattoo artists and some of those service people offering their services have the same license, if we did take it out or regulate tattoo parlors, we would be creating some nonconformity for some of those businesses that do already have that. I'm not sure if you were 14 years old and came in and wanted the lady to do permanent eyebrow color or something, that you would need to get your parental authorization. So I can't verify that. If that still is even in a hair and salon, nail salon, that may be the difference. But it's the same it's similar. That's saying that person that's doing the eyebrow still has to dispose of any of the waste, as I understand it, the same way that that tattoo person is doing. So the activities are the same. I agree, and that's why it was here for discussion, but we will have to change the ordinance then and come at it from a different angle if that is your recommendation, if that is what
No,
the board
just a
decides.
question, bringing it up. And by the way, I don't need any of that treatment right now. I'm past that. That was the extent of my questions. Thank you.
I have a question as a point of reference, Dory. Over the last 5 years, for example, how many applicants or people have inquired about tattoo parlors? That comes to
Like
mind.
I say, there was one that was
Besides the
passionate
one that's
about to
over
open his
there on
business on
512.
512, and I want to say that was probably 2011 or
Yeah.
12. I can say that at least twice, 3 times a year, I will get a call. Of course, before this, I've had to tell them only industrial area, which is along the railroad tracks, and there's not a lot of buildings that are visible from the road.
Right.
And then having to meet all of the distance regulations. Is it a once-a-month thing? No, but, yearly, we get 2 or 3 calls on somebody that wants to come in and open a shop, and we've had to guide them through these regulations.
Because my thinking, and the reason why I ask you that, is that I think certainly in our city here, I don't know that is that big of a viable market for tattoo parlors. So I'm not expecting to see 5 or 10 or 15, 20 parlors, which would be my concern. Because I know in Palm Bay and Melbourne, for example, if you look at some of the areas where they do have parlors or tattoo parlors, from time to time there are some unsavory characters that I see just hanging there smoking and stuff like that. But I wanted to, as a point of reference, know how many inquiries we typically have. So,
Yeah,
that's
2 or 3 a year is what
yeah.
I can
Okay. All right. Thank you.
factually say.
It's fine, everything fine. I just want to see there should be more definition in a parenthesis, say, okay, tattoo, parlors, other things, just instead of saying adult public personal service,
Well, that's where we were, though, if we create more of a specific definition for tattoo establishment and artists, then we would have to specifically put that into, I believe, into some of the zoning districts. So trade and skilled services is more of a cloud type of tube that includes a lot of different types of businesses. So if we get too specific, we may have to then specifically add tattoo establishments into the zoning districts.
Well, you go by case when application come and then you see where it fits.
At least I think, maybe we could massage it and put a little bit more in there. I don't,
It's fine to me, but somebody could question, okay,
Yep.
is this common that services or not,
I have to be honest, the reason why we did this also too is because, of course, we searched the surrounding municipalities, Vero Beach, Anywhere County, Palm Bay, to see how they had defined tattoo establishments, and nobody had a specific definition for tattoo. This is kind of a combination of Indian River County and Vero Beaches on how they had done that. We could not find a specific one in any of the surrounding neighborhoods, municipalities, in their code books.
All right.
So that's why we went this way kind of too, to make it consistent with the county.
All right.
I have no objection to it.
I have one thing I want some clarification on. It's the last page of the packet that you handed out that says adult entertainment establishments. And it says any of the following described businesses, and it goes through this: adult arcade, adult bookstore, adult dancing establishment, motion picture booth, mini motion picture theater, drive-in, adult motel and hotel, and adult personal service businesses, and adult theaters. If that's all going to be in the same ordinance that the tattoo parlors are in? Or-
No.
Oh, okay.
So that's the conditional use. That is all going to remain as a conditional use in only the industrial zoning district.
Okay,
And
so,
those would have to meet all of those distance requirements in a very limited area.
okay. And so really what we're dealing with is tattoo parlors is to allow them.
So it basically says that, okay, here's all our list of adult entertainment, but if you hold this license from the Department of Health, or you hold this license for tattoo artists, and you hold this license for massage therapist, you are not going to be considered adult entertainment, so that you don't have to follow all of those the
Okay.
conditional use criteria.
You'd be more considered retail, is that right?
And we specify that because
Yeah.
currently, when somebody comes in with a hair salon, there, again, in our code, there's no specific zoning district for hair salon, nail, and spa. We've kind of, if they're in a strip mall that's office, if they're in a strip mall that retail, we've kind of gone with it and with the flow and said, okay, your parking's there, and that's, we don't have a lot of standalone hair salons. I can only think of one, but this way too, we're also now establishing that we're going to consider you retail, and we're going to get you to use, you may have to,
And they meet the
supply
same
retail parking and, yes.
and things like that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be some restrictions, I would
Yeah.
think.
Now, all of the signage and anything that has to do with the building aesthetics is all going to depend on where your location is, the overlay district. All of those requirements still apply to whatever unit or location that you're going to. This is strictly just for the use to establish for them. But yes, the adult entertainment still has to follow all those other codes.
Okay, I just have one more comment. I agree with that we shouldn't allow it down along the river. Yeah, but that's my comments.
On to that?
Yes.
When you say not allow it down on the river, and the comment was made of a certain type of individual that may frequent these, we should look at some of the people that frequent some of the areas down in that area also then, when you start talking about that, some of the bars and some of the people that frequent those places. Some of those characters could be considered unsavory too.
And the other thing that we had to look at is that we do allow medical marijuana treatment centers in all of our zoning districts
Right,
also.
yeah, yeah.
So I'll throw that out.
Well, but, I think that's a little bit different, though. That's medical, medicinal, and this
Yes.
is something else. My concern, I'm thinking, and we'll just call it what it is, but say Earl's down there, if they decide to open up a tattooed parlor, there's nothing to keep them from doing that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the site specifics, so they'd be adding a retail use, now they've got to get parking, all that landscaping, but yes, correct. But
Okay.
they would be adding another retail use, so depending on if it was a building addition and it was over certain
Right.
feet, it could possibly come before you guys again, but if it was something internally, but yes.
And yes, you see a lot of motorcycles down there, but I would suspect that most of the people that are there probably are above average income.
Now, that being said, though, and I say yes per zoning, but we glanced over the state statutes. The state statutes might not allow them to operate inside of
Okay.
alcohol establishment, or the state may have some requirements on, because now that I think about it, you don't see a tattoo parlor in a bar or lounge. So there are state requirements. They're regulated.
Well, would a
also by
tattoo
them.
parlor would they be able to serve alcohol if they had a liquor license?
That's what I don't know, if
Yeah.
that's embedded in the state. I can search that for you for our next meeting,
And
but
what
I'm
kind of
not sure
art
if it
was
is.
this applicant going to have in his tattoo parlor?
I'm not sure. He was looking at more to do an art studio and a tattoo parlor. So I think he was looking at more, the front room would be, he was an artist, maybe an art studio painting for sales, and in the back. He was just trying to find a location. We hadn't gotten to specifics on exactly how his
Okay.
floor plan was going to be.
Okay, thank you. From my perspective, my personal feelings about tattoos are irrelevant. I recognize that it's a good thing to update. The only thing that's constant in life is change. So I think this is appropriate. I've noticed a whole lot of old ladies getting tattoos, so what the heck is that all about? I don't know. It's all personal choice, and if you don't like it, don't go there, I guess. I don't have any problem with it. I think it's appropriate if it's licensed by the state and the state actually does regulate it, then I guess I don't have a problem with it.
And they still have to receive a business tax receipt from the city, too. So they're annually, we make sure that they're up to date on that.
The other thing that Dory mentioned was on the signage requirements. that will help control it a lot too, as far as, how they appear. So that's a good factor, and that settled my mind a little bit on that score.
Yes, they're in the riverfront, there's some overlay district requirements regarding color and inappropriate
Correct.
type of signage would be caught when they came in with their, adjusted when they came in with their permit, that we could ask them to change. To a point, though, First Amendment, freedom of speech, but colors anyways, and inappropriate things we could.
Before we take our vote, is there anybody from the public who wants to address this? Seeing no volunteers, I'll call for a motion.
And this will be a recommendation to City
A
Council.
recommendation on it, yeah.
I'll make the motion to recommend to City Council the proposed changes to ordinance number 019-01 as submitted in our packet this evening.
Not the proposed changes, but the ordinance as submitted. Correct, Mr. Roth?
Okay.
Okay.
Correct.
There was no
Ordinance-
changes that the commission is recommending.
Ordinance as submitted, that's right. That's what I'm holding here. Correct.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Voice, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Eugen,
Yes.
Mr. Kizzelbosh,
Yes.
Ms. Cottenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Motti,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
and Mr. Carter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Have no unfinished business. Anybody in the public who wants to address us on any other matters? Seeing none, we'll move ripping right through to the commissioners' matters.
I'd like to make a comment on the mailing of the packets. I didn't get my packet till this afternoon, which leaves me no time to do any due diligence other than looking at it and kind of digesting it. I don't know if we can get back to either having them delivered like we used to, or if staff can have these prepared or sooner than what the meetings are, and if they're going to be mailed, then make sure that we get them in time.
I can't guarantee postal service.
Yeah, right.
As a courtesy, we used to have, the Planning and Zoning Commission used to have to come into the office and pick up your packets. It was hard sometimes. Some of the commissioners wouldn't get here till Wednesday or Thursday, not really have time either to look at a site plan. So I think as a courtesy, we were, at least when there's a site plan, and it's costly to mail them, we are delivering them to your door. But this was a smaller packet. I'm open to suggestions. I have a director that was actually asking me why we were mailing them, since we were emailing them to you. I don't know how many, I told her I'm not sure who has printers, and I know I like to have something paper in front of me, and we don't have where they can come up on the computer, but whatever the board is open to that helps you, we certainly can amend that process or how we're getting them to you.
I did try to open, for some reason on this agenda pack, I couldn't open it on my computer either.
Okay.
Or the attachment. So normally I can do that, but
Okay,
this one I
so
couldn't.
I'll work on that to see why maybe if there's going to be emailed to you in a different version. We get the link from the city clerk's office, but maybe I'll just scan it per se and it'll come over as a PDF then to you. That may help. I know
Okay.
somebody else had a problem one time too with something getting in the mail.
I
Unless
almost,
you'd like to go back to coming to the office and picking them up on Friday, or if it's a small packet like this on Monday, we can hold them for
I
you.
almost never receive them until 2 days after the meeting,
Okay.
so you see me quite often. But this time I got it like days after you sent it, God only knows why.
Yeah, it happens. It depends.
Like,
Yeah, I got
Most
mine.
days I don't get them until 6, so it'd be impossible for me to get down here.
I'll look and see, at least so you can open it up on your computer, and I certainly, we usually make a couple extra packets, so, if you don't receive it by Wednesday or Thursday, give us a call, we'll have it for you. As long as you are getting it on your computer, so at least you can peruse it before, so it's not totally new as you're getting to the meeting.
Question about the status on Sebastian Landing. Any update on that, where it is?
What?
You mean the Spirit of Sebastian?
Oh, yeah, Spirit of Sebastian, yes, thank you.
So that's a big subdivision, but they have submitted, it was in November, they submitted their preliminary plat application, and we have received jurisdictional reviews coming back. Staff hasn't completed ours, but their traffic impact study was this big. And so we've had our consulting engineer reviewing that. He's made some comments. They've had to revise that. I also know that they're working with the county on Old Dixie Highway. There are some on, the county may take over maintenance of that road, and so there's some things that they're working with the developer on things that they're hoping to get as some off-site improvements. So I know there's been some meetings between Mr. McLean and the principals and the county. I can't give a date on that because we still haven't finished our final review, but it's in the process, the preliminary plat.
It's a
And it
big
is just
project.
for the first 2 pods, for phase 1, and they're calling them pods, but phase 1 and phase 2. So that's what we're reviewing right now.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, and I also can tell you, they are meeting with, they do have a plan for the entrance way on Del Monte. And so they actually are, have been very nice. They have a meeting scheduled with the homeowners because they'd like to do some tree-lined streets, put some trees in that right-of-way, kind of an entrance way into their subdivision, which will improve those lots, but they want to meet their meeting with the homeowners. And of course, we'll have to get involved too because it may be within the street right-of-way and do some sort of license to encroach or maintenance agreement with them. But they are meeting this weekend, I believe, with the residents of that street to see what they would like to and kind of amend and adjust their plan before they submit it to the city. So they are reaching out to the neighborhood to see what the neighbor's going to want for some of the improvements.
They're only addressing Del Monte, not the streets they're going to come down besides that?
No, so this is as part of their entryway into there. Most likely staff will want some sort of off-site sidewalk along Wimbrow, I believe it is. So we haven't gotten to that part of our review to find out exactly. This was just for Del Monte from Wimbrow into their entrance as more of an entrance into the subdivision improvement instead of just right there at the bridge it's going to go over. But I'm not saying that there's not going to be off-site sidewalks that the city may want as an improvement to 512. There probably will be some off-site improvements to Old Dixie from their entrance to 512. And that's where we are in the review, is kind of organizing all of those, that information and what also the city's going to want with that preliminary plat.
The reason I ask that is because I still have a lot of neighbors in that area that are asking about the traffic pattern through that subdivision and how they're going to address that.
Well, that's what we're looking at with the traffic base. We don't have the final, we just got a revised traffic report back. And it is with our consulting. We haven't gotten his comments back. And basically what he's verifying and kind of the traffic trips and the proposed direction of the traffic that they foresee this is going to happen and how many extra counts will be at the intersections is what he's verifying and clarifying now. So once that traffic analysis is kind of good and everybody agrees that the numbers are good, then staff can say, okay, look at how many extra trips are going to be on this street. What do we need to do to this intersection improvement? Or what are we going to want on this street? So we're waiting for that final traffic analysis to kind of be approved by our consulting engineer so we can actually look at those trips and see what we are going to want at some of the intersections or the streets.
Thank you.
Dory, I have a question. I've had some real estate people ask me, were the packets ever sent out for the rental property? Because they're saying they never received anything.
No, they were not sent out. We do have a link on we have them at the office. I don't know if, we've had quite a few come in, so we've handed out quite a few. Did we?
Okay.
No, we have not sent out any formal letter. It is now, there's a formal link on our website on the front page, left-hand side, lower left-hand side. We probably should send out an information letter at this point instead of making the packets themselves, but at least where you can find that packet.
Okay, but they could come by here and pick the packet up?
Oh, definitely, yes, yes.
Where would they go?
Community development.
Okay,
Yes.
and the link is on the City Sebastian
Right on the front
web?
page, on the community development page, but also on the front page too.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I think it was probably 6 or 7 months ago, we talked about studying some other uses for the small riverfront lots.
So
Has anything gone forward on that?
follow through on that. And it was right when Lisa Frazier was kind of coming on and getting her feet wet. And I think we all agreed that the best was to get some sort of inventory of those lots. And also then, at the same time, we started the process of the riverfront market analysis, which I believe you've all been given a copy of, and the CRA master plan. And the same consultant group was working on all of that. We have gotten 2 different drafts of the master plan that does have information on those lots, and it's kind of the inventory. We haven't been quite happy with the draft enough to move it forward, and they're actually working. We met with them, and there were areas of that plan that we were not happy with. Wasn't up to what we were expecting a master plan to have the information and things in it. So they are back on another revision and working on those. So we do feel bad because we've been telling everybody we're working on this master plan. We wanted to get it to all of our boards, and it has been dragged out, but we want to have a final document that our staff feels is good to present to you, and we just haven't gotten there yet with what they've submitted so far.
Is it detail that's missing on that, or is it conceptual planning?
We
not
had
to
wanted,
your
that's part of this,
satisfaction?
we had wanted more details, and we're getting more conceptual. And so we've kind of asked them to go back to the drawing board to, we let them know the areas that we would like more details. Now, this master plan also includes not along the riverfront, but all of our CRA, so it's also the triangle and the area of the compound. We asked them to come up with kind of a nice proposed detail of what we would do when we do move that compound and have that. We were looking for a little bit more detail on the hotel site that the city bought, if there would maybe be a proposed plan for that block. And the small lot things is where we've been kind of disappointed in what we've had so far. So we're prodding them along to get us a better product, and that'll, as soon as that's ready, that'll be before this board for your recommendation to city council.
Are you standing on their fingernails to get it?
Yes.
I kind of gathered that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Bill?
No? Okay.
No. I do. I still have a situation with the vehicles being sold on Barber Street. Is there any possible, now that we're discussing about ordinance or something, can we recommend here to the city council to have an ordinance to restrict the sales of vehicles here in the city of Sebastian to at least 2 a year? If you turn on Schumann, now the guy there in the corner, he don't only has a car, he has a sign, low miles. You know, pretty soon he's gonna have one of those things out there with balloons. And I mean, we don't have teeth here. I don't understand. We can't do anything about that, or can we? We need.
I know there are codes in place that do prevent having an auto sale or an auto use on your property. I believe they've tried to restrict that by saying that every vehicle on your property has to be licensed and registered and insured in somebody that's living in that house. And I don't know if we can prevent somebody from selling their personal property, but I'll have to check with code enforcement if they've been by these properties and.
Well, I spoke to Rick about it, and I told him about what I was going to say, and he's all for it because, I mean, they're laughing at us. I mean, if you turn on that Schumann going up to Barber, you see the first one on the left. You make it before you turn the curve. There's another one. He has 5 cars parked out there in his
and
property.
code enforcement is checked to make sure they're all licensed. And,
again, you know. They wait for the guy to leave and they park it. I had that problem where I come from, and it was a really bad problem. And the problem is that you let one person, and before you know it, you have 10. We got 3 already selling cars in Barber Street. 3. And you let it go before you know it. All Barber Street is an auto sales shop. I mean, I don't know how you guys like that. I don't like it. I had one for 5 years next to my house, but that was a different city. I mean, so I don't know how you guys feel it, but I don't feel it's right. I mean, now they have a model home in front of it and low miles. Come and buy, you know, all he needs to put is buy here and pay here.
I'll check with code enforcement
Please,
to see what
no,
their
actually, I
issue
would
is.
like to have, if we can, to create an ordinance to limit these vehicles to 2 a year, whether you own them or not.
I'll check with code enforcement to see what their hurdle is on getting them to not have that many cars, or if they
No,
find.
he tells me that as long as the car is registered, they can't do anything. Well, it costs $700 or $800 or whatever. They're just tagging on whenever they sell the car, and they're perfectly legit.
I believe the state has regulations though for a auto dealership. And
I
we'll check
know.
to see if there's some connection from that we can use to. I'll look into it, Mr. Alvarez. I know you had noted it before, and I passed it on to code enforcement.
Ever since I've been here, and I pass by there, and it's like, they're just laughing at us.
Are these cars sitting on a builder's model
No,
lot?
they're on property, private property, and one of them is a renter.
Okay, so you mentioned the model home. That's-
Well, across the model, when you turn on Schumann from Barber, the guy right there in the corner, he even has his driveway, he did it particularly for that, to put a car there. And then now he has low miles. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel it, but
Wouldn't that be considered running a business out of a private home?
Yes, if they're advertising, and they certainly couldn't get a business tax receipt from the city. We
That's-
do allow home occupation license, but no customers can come to your house. And of course, auto sales are not allowed
it's
in
not.
residential.
I mean,
If you've got a sign out there, that would be a violation.
Yes, I'd say, I'm going to check with Rich and Curtis on which houses they've had issues with, do they have pictures, and like I say, we'll see if there's another angle where we can get them to stop, whether it's through a state license or something like that, and if it's not, if there is hurdles, then we certainly can, see where we can
I
add
think
something
that
code.
the only way we're gonna stop this is to, put something strong, no more. I mean, I understand if you have a vehicle, you wanna sell it, why not? Anybody's allowed, but when you start using your property as selling more than one vehicle, then, are they paying taxes on that sale?
Yeah, there should
You know,
be sales taxes. He's running a business in essence.
You're running a
Yeah,
business, and I'm telling you, he don't care.
I would suggest we look into the state licensing on that.
Yeah, because I think if you have a certain amount of cars that you're selling, or you require the dealership,
But this particular one, across from that, he has, we've discussed this before, he has, I believe, an auctioneer license to go buy cars. He's an old guy, whatever, and he just parks, whenever he goes, just puts a car there.
If he's got an auctioneer's license, he's a business.
so sometimes it's a matter, though, of if he is in violation and you say they're laughing or whatever, that's why I want to check too, because then the
is.
next step is to bring him before the special magistrate. So
Exactly.
it's more of a final violation, then there's a fine. So it might not always mean that we need to change the code, but the next step of enforcement may need to be taken. And I'd like to talk to the code enforcement officer, and we'll get the full story on why.
And
they
now
haven't
there's a
moved to that
police
step.
officer that lives across the street from him. City of Sebastian. It's like, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al. City Attorney Manners?
Nothing.
Okay. Staff?
I have nothing tonight either, thank you.
Point of order.
Quick.
I know. Aren't there supposed to be elections the first?
You are correct, Mr. Roth. We did miss that tonight. I don't have it on the agenda. I've been telling you there's some site plans that are coming forward. I'm thinking definitely in February we have a preliminary plat for the Cross Creek Lake Estate addition, and I believe the next site plan that'll be before you is for the new Verizon store that's proposed on US 1. And I will definitely have that on the next meeting that we have. We'll have elections.
And before you
I
hit the
want to
gavel,
nominate Louise.
512, do we have an update? Because I know Mr. Reyes is going to, on those two, remember, they're trying to dry up the library right next to.
So some residents have come into on that. We have sent the developer a letter per our code, and based on when we're starting, he had 18 months to bring in that final plat and get that one lot subdivision finished, which is April 2019, in April.
Okay.
So he does still have a few months, but I know the contractor is out there. They're draining the lake, and then we'll see that dirt. Our director was out there also too. So he's got till April of 2008 to totally complete it and have it all graded and everything.
Okay, thank you. We're done.
Go, folks. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.